Thank you very much, and I want to welcome to this lesson. We are still looking at the properties of matter. And last week, we did an experiment where we were trying to find out how oxygen is used for breathing. And we did the experiment and the observation. Today, I want us to look at another experiment on how oxygen is used for rusting. Remember, we were looking at the uses of oxygen. We started by looking at how oxygen is used for breathing. And today, I want us to look at how oxygen is used for rusting. Remember, we said that rust is a brown substance formed when a metal, especially iron metals, react with water in presence of oxygen. So here, there's an experiment to investigate how oxygen is used or how oxygen is responsible for rusting. We need some material that we are going to use in this experiment. One, we need a glass jar. We need a trap or a basin. We need iron filings. We need water. Then we need a muslin bag. A muslin bag is just a netted bag, a bag that has some air spaces. Then we need some sticks. Then after we have done and we have gathered all those materials, this is how we are supposed to arrange our apparatus. We are supposed to assemble them as shown here. Now, look at that diagram. So this is how we are going to arrange our materials together in a basin of water. A stick, we are going to use the stick to make that bag. Remember, we had a netted bag. Inside that bag, we are going to put some iron filings, and then we tie it in a stick so that they don't, the iron filings don't get into contact with water. So we are going to tie them in a stick, and then you suspend them the way you can see them there. And then you're supposed to leave it there for some times, maybe after some 3 days. And then look at the second experiment. And I want to look at that experiment keenly because there are some changes that you're supposed to observe, because you may be asked, what were the observations? Now, in the first experiment, you can see the level of water in the trap or in the basin. You can see the level of water in the basin is high, while the level of water in the glass is low. Finally, when you are coming to the end of that experiment and you are going to make some observations, you can now check the water level in the basin has decreased, while the water level in the glass is now has increased. Now, what does this show? It shows that now when this bag of iron filings are left in the glass here for some time, we had some oxygen. Remember, that empty glass is not just empty. It has air. And we say that air is a combination of gases, of which oxygen is one of them. So the oxygen that is present in that air will react with the iron filings, okay? And finally, we are going to see the water level rising by 1/5, meaning the oxygen that was there in glass has been used up. It has reacted with the ions. And therefore, when it has reacted, there will be a space left. That space left will now be occupied by water. Let's do very, very fast and look at the observation number 1. After some 2 days, rust occurred. If you check the iron filings, you will find some brown substances, and those are what we call rust. So rust occurred in the iron filings after 2 days. Another observation is that water entered the glass. And of course, there was an increase of water level, okay, in the glass by 1/5. And then water dropped in the trough or in the basin. So what does that mean? It means that oxygen that was present in glass was used in rusting, and then the space that was left was then occupied by that water. And when we come to conclusion, how do you conclude that experiment? Oxygen is needed or is used for rusting, okay? Then in summary, you say that water and oxygen are needed for rusting to occur on a metal, and down here, you can see how the reaction takes place. Look at that diagram that I've drawn there. You say that when iron react with water in presence of oxygen, you can see when iron react with water in presence of oxygen, then a brown substance is formed, and that brown substance is what we call rust. Therefore, dear learner, this experiment was used to investigate or to find out how oxygen is used for rusting. Let's look at the second experiment, which we should also look at after that. Another experiment was, is it true that oxygen is used for germination? This is another experiment that we're supposed to conduct. How is oxygen used for germination? Okay. So we need some materials here. For this experiment, we need a glass jar, we need a trough or a basin, we need some seeds, water, mostly in bag or a netted bag, stick, and wet cotton. So after that, this is how we are going to assemble our experiment. Okay, you suppose assemble, you take the netted bag. Inside that bag, put some seed and wet cotton. You tie them here. You tie them, and then you use that stick. You use that stick to suspend them in order not to come into contact with water, and then you leave it there for some time. Now, when that arrangement is done, what do we expect? After some days, around 3 to 4 days, we leave it there for some 3 days, or between 3 to 5 days, and then later after those days, we're supposed to come and make observation. What was our observation when this experiment was arranged? This is what we observed. One, the seeds that were inside the wet cotton germinated. Number two, water entered the glass by 1/5 level. Then finally, water dropped in the trough by 1/5 level. Just let me take you back to that experiment so that I can explain why that happened. Now, we say that one of the requirements that we need during germination of seeds, one of them was air, and specifically oxygen, okay? Now, when these seeds are left in wet cotton for some 3 to 5 days, then that oxygen that is present in the glass will be consumed or will be used by this seed during germination. Now, when that has happened, it means that the oxygen that was present in the glass is going to be used up. And therefore, that space that was left in the glass must be occupied by water that was in the trough. And that's why you realize that after some 5 days, the level of water in the glass was increasing, because it increased in the glass to replace the used oxygen by 1/5. Remember the other day we say that if you calculate 1/5 of 100%, it will give you 20%, and 20% is approximation of percentage of oxygen present in air. Therefore, oxygen that was present in this glass was used by those seeds during germination. What was the conclusion of this experiment? Conclusion was oxygen is needed for seed to germinate. And that's the end of our lesson. So we have looked at 3 experiments. 1, to investigate how oxygen is used for breathing. 2, to investigate how oxygen is used for burning or combustion. And 3, we have also looked at how oxygen is used for germination. So when those experiments come, please remember what you have learned and ensure that you give us the right answer. Otherwise, have a nice day.